Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the Kent City Council workshop meeting. Today is Tuesday, September 3rd. We're going to get started here. Bless you. All righty. You okay? Kim, roll call, please.
Thank you. Council President Kaur, Councilmember Boyce,
Here.
Councilmember Boyd,
Here.
Councilmember Fincher,
Here.
Councilmember Larmer,
Here.
Councilmember Michaud, Councilmember Troutner.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Pat, any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
Council member, any changes? Seeing none, I ask for a motion on the agenda, please.
Motion to approve.
Motion is second. In discussion, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, let the record show unanimous pass. We're going to move on to item number 4. We're doing department presentation, and the first one we're going to do is the operation. And I'm going to ask for approval of the minutes of August 20th.
So move to approve the minutes from August 20th. Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, let the record show unanimous pass. Move on to item 4B is second quarter investment report. We're going to have Joe going to come from finance. How you doing, sir?
Doing well, thank you.
All righty.
Good afternoon. I'm Joe Bartlemy. I'm the Cash and Investment Officer in the Finance Department, and today I'll be presenting the second quarter investment report. And this report was presented to the Investment Advisory Board on August 22nd. So at the end of the second quarter, we had cash in the bank earning 5.5% earnings credit. That's an earnings credit that offsets our U.S. bank fees. It's fully covering our fees at this time because the earnings credit is higher than normal. Balance of $10.5 million in our bank account. We have our Washington State Local Government Investment Pool. That's our short-term portfolio, earning 5.4% with overnight liquidity, and we had a balance of $135.6 million in that portfolio. And our long-term investments, earning 2.81% with an average earnings of 2.81% and an average maturity of 811 days with a market value of $243.3 million and an investment total of $249.4 million. The pie chart below shows significant portions of the portfolio are in the local government investment pool and U.S. Treasuries. We have our 5-month comparison of cash and investments by type. The green line at the bottom is cash. We're keeping just kind of a minimum amount to cover our short-term cash flow needs. Next, we have our local government investment pool in that purple color. And that's our liquid portfolio. We can transfer cash in and out as needed. And then we have our long-term portfolio above that with an increase. Each quarter, we are increasing our long-term portfolio by about $10 million to take advantage of the higher yields that are out there now and lock in on those for a longer duration. So we're slowly transferring money from the local government investment pool to our long-term portfolio. And then total cash and investments have increased year over year. Here we have our 3-year comparison of total cash and investments, 2022 at the bottom. And I just wanted to point out that in the middle of 2022, we received our second allocation of the ARPA grant funds. So we see a little spike in revenue there that we aren't used to seeing. 2023 and 2024 are more typical, and they show an increase year over year. Next, we have our 5-quarter interest earnings with second quarter 2023 on the far left and second quarter 2024 on the far right. And the dark blue line bar is general fund only, and the light blue is all other funds combined. And we're continuing to see a steady increase in the interest earnings quarter over quarter. And next we have our total cash and investment portfolio by fund. So if you take that total cash, investment pool, and long-term investments, these are the allocations that each fund owns. So you can see significant portions are in the general fund, the street fund, capital fund, various utility funds, and insurance funds all have significant portions. Next, we have our long-term portfolio only, so this does not include the state investment pool or cash. The pie chart there shows significant portions are in U.S. Treasury, the bulk of that portfolio. The maturity distribution on the lower left shows our laddered maturities. So we have maturities up to 5 years, and we have maturities really all the time. Every month almost we have maturities, investments maturing, and we're able to reinvest those at the current market. So we have the lower earning investments that we purchased when rates were lowered. Those are starting to mature, and we're able to reinvest at the higher yield. About 25% of that portfolio will mature within the next year. Next, we have policy compliance. So all of our various investment types are well within policy compliance. And lastly, we have the portfolio allocation over 4 quarters. And this is just the long-term portfolio without cash and the local government investment pool, and really no significant changes quarter over quarter. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Any question for Joe team? Hey, I just want to say it's a lot of money you guys dealing with. You've done a phenomenal job. It's a pleasure for me to be on the committee with this team here, the finance team, and really work hard to make sure the city money is well taken care of. So I just want to give you a special shout out and say kudos and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. Okay, we're going to move along. We will be looking at a resolution to get some authority. Paula Painter, Finance Director.
Good afternoon, members of City Council. I'm Paula Painter, the Finance Director, and before you tonight is a resolution which would designate authority to the Finance Director to designate certain expenditures for reimbursement should we issue a future bond issue. From time to time, the city has issued debt to able to support some of its governmental activities, things that are big projects that are more large scale in nature. They could be used for acquiring, building, or improving public facilities or other infrastructure. We've done this in the past. One of the things with issuing debt, it really does help us to be able to handle these costs up front. It adds value to the city. It also helps us to be able to predict a little bit more what our cash flow is going to end up looking like. When you have a constant debt service payment, it makes it easier than trying to have to build up huge piles of money to be able to expend them. So it does make it a little bit easier. Right now, the city has a couple of projects that could result in wanting to come to you and ask to do a bond issue. And with those projects, some of those have some immediate expenses that we're looking at as well. And so one of the things that we're doing here is the Department of Treasury allows the city to seek reimbursement for expenditures that we incur if we choose to issue a bond issue. So, but in order to do this, we'd have to complete a declaration of official intent to reimburse. And this would allow us to reimburse any expenditures that we're incurring currently or at any given point in time with the bond issue that we may choose to issue. The resolution in front of you does not take away from the council's authority to issue debt. What this does is this really is an administrative function which just allows the finance director to determine what expense might be eligible for reimbursement of a bond issue. The council will have the total authority to take issue on any debt that is going to be issued. Signing a declaration of intent does not say that we're going to issue debt, and it will not impact that decision of the council. That is totally going to be done through council action should we want to go that route. So that won't change. Council's authority will not change at all with this resolution. So the Department of Treasury does allow a city to delegate and appoint one or more people to be able to sign this declaration of intent. And the resolution in front of you would designate the finance director, or myself at this point in time, to be able to sign that declaration, to be able to select the type of expenses that could be used or reimbursed with the bond issue should the city choose to go that route. I'm sorry, that was very confusing and did not come out smoothly, so I'd be really happy to answer any questions you might have on that.
Or just say you want to give you all the power, that's what I heard.
Yeah, pretty much. Ultimately, it's the only power that this would be delegating to the finance director is really to say, hey, we have this project here that we might want to consider issuing bonds for. We know when we go into these big projects that there's upfront costs. We want to be able to capture all of that if that's the route we're deciding to take. And that's really what this is about. And but it does not impact your authority to issue debt, nor does it force your arm in issuing debt at any point in time.
Okay, Marley, you got a question?
Yeah, I think I just want to frame it and make sure, maybe in different words to make sure I'm fully understanding this. Anyway, sorry, I want to frame this and make sure I'm fully understanding this. So really all we're doing is giving you the authority to kind of do a checklist of, hey, these are the expenses we've incurred up till now prior to the bond, the debt issue.
That is correct. If we and if I look at a project and I say, hey, this project has the potential of us wanting to consider issuing debt, potentially, I can issue this declaration of intent for reimbursement. Then it would allow me to look back 60 days from the date that this intent. The reason why delegating this authority is so important is if as a council you do decide you want to move forward with this, to actually have you guys approve the authority to actually go look back, we'd have to come back to see you, and that slows the process down and also gives increases risk of not being able to look back as far, because there's timelines that are associated with all of this.
Okay, so we're like you said, we're not delegating our authority. We're just giving you the ability to kind of compile these
Correct.
expense list. Okay.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
Now, Paul, we've done this way back when, so was it a different type of umbrella? We issued bond before, so this, now we're making this a resolution to put it in place. But what did we do in the past, though?
So many times we don't have to look back and pick up those extra expenses. Maybe we have decided not to look back. Without doing the intent, we can't look back. But because we have so many things going on, we want to just have that flexibility in place should we decide to do that.
Okay, good. Are we good?
Yep, I'm good.
Good. We good down here? Okay, cool.
I had a question,
Oh, I'm sorry.
comment. So basically, in the past, we might have missed some project charges as far as being able to include those in the bond. So bond reimbursements, basically, or bond costs. This would include, or give us a better chance at getting all of the project costs included.
That is correct. And there's have been bond issues that did look back too, and so it would have been done at that time. But again, there's this time frame of which you can look back for those expenses. Yeah.
Hey, thank you, Paula. I'm going to read this resolution. I move to adopt resolution number 2076, appointing the city finance director as the agent authorized to designate certain expenditure for reimbursement from future tax-exempt obligation, including bonds that may be authorized and approved by the city council in the future for issuing.
I second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Let the record show unanimous pass. Thank you, Paula. And I think that's it for operation. Yep. So we're going to move on to ECDC and Councilmember Larmer.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyce. So we have a comprehensive plan update from Kristen. This is the capital facilities and utilities elements.
Yes, so good evening. I'm here to talk about two of the smaller known items or elements that we are updating as part of our comprehensive plan process. I apologize, I realize I didn't update this slide for the appropriate body, but
I was going to talk to you about
the content is updated. The slide, that was an oversight. But yes, so bringing these two topics together because they really are coordinated and work together. Behind me, I do want to say there has been a lot of conversations with Parks, Public Works, and various other groups within those two departments to get to where we are today. So special thanks on the united effort for this. So goals for tonight, just a quick update on what the major changes to the goals and policies are, and then an opportunity for you all to provide any feedback on the materials that were sent over. And so this is no final action is needed, it's just an update along the process. So as a reminder, we have our introduction chapter, which has our vision and 5 guiding principles. And then each of those elements are supporting and informed by the vision and guiding principles. So it's a two-way street. They inform and then they help support and realize those visions as well. And then each element has specific information below it. And so really one of the things that we are striving to do in this comprehensive plan update is also to recognize the interconnectedness between the various elements and that a lot of times they don't work in silos. So I'm going to talk about the capital facilities element first. Technically, it comes later in our current comprehensive plan, and I don't think there was necessarily a reason why it is or is not in that order. It's just how it is. But it is Chapter 9, and it gives, it meets the state requirements. We are required to have an inventory of all of our capital facilities and all of the publicly owned projects. And so, as you can imagine, that list is quite extensive. It is, we'll get into what a capital facility actually is, but tying it back into the Growth Management Act, we're also required not to say what exists now, but what we anticipate needing in the future. And so that is, again, tying it into the concurrent growth strategy. And then it also provides goals and policies to help direct and inform how we're making our decisions for adopted levels of service and investments in the future. So currently it has 3 topic areas, 10 different goals, and 35 policies. So those topic areas right now as they currently stand are police and corrections, which has the most goals and policies under it. And then there's Puget Sound Fire, which has 1 goal and several policies. And then general is where solid waste, utilities, parks, transportation get lumped together. Of note, currently we don't have any specific goals or policies for school districts, and that is something that we are required to do. So, connection to daily operations. This is a reminder, this was something that we talked a lot about with Land Use and Planning Board of, there we go. The capital facilities element in the comprehensive plan really sets the vision, the big, broad guidance and table, but then really it comes into our annual budget and CIP or capital improvement program processes. And so that's where we work closely every year with finance to say, yes, we've reviewed the capital programs, we've reviewed the project lists that are going to be funded over that next 6-year rolling cycle, and we find that they are consistent with what we've identified as the longer term needs for the city for growth. It's interesting too, because even though we don't directly control or have any sort of influence over their boards, we also are required by state law to look at fire, school districts, and other utilities. And so you do get other elements that are looking at how all of these facilities and services are working together. And so you all get that process once a year with the budget update and with our CIPs, and it also ties into our impact fees as well, because there's formulas that are set through various regulations and requirements for how we collect our impact fees for various services in our community. So public facilities, distilled to its most simple format, it really is things that are publicly funded either by the city or by one of our partner agencies, and we're looking at them holistically of how do we continue to support growth in our community and provide service across the city so that we're not having major gaps in coverage or basic services like water or sewer. So a summary of our changes, we start in our current comprehensive plan by digging straight into police and protection services first, and then fire, and then more generally. So we are going to propose more of a flip so that we talk more generally about all capital facilities and then narrow into some of the more specific ones. There were things that were located over various iterations of the comprehensive plan that really don't belong. They're not specific to capital facility. They may be more about land use and environmental processes or climate resiliency. So we are moving things to their more appropriate elements as opposed to using the capital facilities to catch a lot of things that may not necessarily belong there. We've strengthened our language to support equitable distribution of services and also to approach things with a culturally sensitive mindset as we're delivering services and communications. And then again, additional language, we already had a lot of language about environmental protection, but adding in the climate resiliency conversation as we're doing that element in our comprehensive plan as well was really important to do. And then also recognizing where it belonged. Sometimes we had it just in capital facilities, but it really applied more to private development. And so again, placing it in appropriate buckets so that it was not just kind of in a silo. And then there have been some changes from PSRC in the multi-county planning policies and King County-wide planning policies as well. And so we have updates to reflect those changes. One of the more significant changes is, and we did work extensively with police and fire as well on any of the changes. We also added in specifically language for schools. There was a recent court case that said schools do need to be part of this process, and so making sure we're adding those in. We were already doing it. It's not so much a change in our processes. It's just making sure that we have the language to verify that we are doing that. So for the utilities element, very similar. So our capital facilities, notably, it doesn't have conversations about transportation or parks because it has general goals and aspirations on capital facilities, but then you can find that information specifically in the parks element or in the transportation element. Utilities is very similar. So really the utilities element is a part of implementing the capital facilities, but it gets much more into the specifics of water and sewer, surface water, and solid waste, things that you normally receive a bill for in terms of utilities. And so currently it has, again, its whole intent is to make sure that we are addressing growth in a way that is coordinated and that we are not anticipating, that we're anticipating the impacts that could occur to our infrastructure and service utility providers and then incorporating that in. It has 6 topics ranging from water and sewer, surface water, solid waste, electricity, natural gas, and telecommunications. And across that, there are 22 goals and 54 policies. Some of the changes very similar to capital facilities, so reorganized for flow and readability, putting really the general purpose goals and policies up front and then getting into more specifics. Also, there were a lot of redundancies where we said the same thing for all different types of utilities, and we thought we could just move those up into the general purpose section. We also added language about balancing the needs of new infrastructure to support brand new growth with also existing development and as well as infill density needs. And so talking a little bit about the needs that are emerging out of new state laws and housing requirements. And then again, we did have language to address environmental protection, climate resiliency, and those new county and multi-county policies. One thing that I did want to highlight, we are making 2 changes. Instead of having a separate electricity and natural gas chapter, the natural gas chapter or goals and policies specifically talked about expanding pipelines and things that aren't really an issue that we're dealing with in Kent right now or an economic priority or goal, and the landscape around natural gas has shifted. And so we did, instead of having electricity and natural gas separated, we did combine them into energy, and we have a goal related to recognizing the role of natural gas in our transition towards clean energy, but really the goal of expanding pipelines was not something that was relevant anymore for today's current setting. We also updated the telecommunications goals and policies because that does relate to what we think of a normal telephone, but it also relates to broadband and other infrastructure for internet access. And so expanded to recognize just the evolving nature of the industry as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on the specific goals or policies in front of you. And then I did want to just remind, we have our 5th advisory group meeting tomorrow night. You're all welcome to attend. Dinner starts at 5:30, and then we get into recovering economic development, how we're integrating our human services element throughout the comp plan, and then talking about climate resiliency. So we'll be digging into some of the topics that I think our advisory group calls the where's the people in the policies topics. And so we're excited to be having those conversations tomorrow night. And then we will be going back to Land Use and Planning Board, and we have workshops scheduled with you all for some topics still remaining. Notably, September 17th will be our discussion on housing now that we have our preferred alternative finalized and the numbers have settled. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate all the update we've been getting along throughout this whole process. So appreciate all of your hard work. Any question?
I do have a question. How are we dealing with, in the utility section, how are we dealing with the parts of the city that are serviced by third-party utilities, like water? You know, do they have to do a comp plan as well?
So they do. Kelly and Chad probably know more about this. We did do conversations with every external agency that provides water and sewer, and some other groups like the school districts as well. And so they're aware of our effort and what our growth numbers are. They also do a process where they are continually updating their plans. And so they send it to us. I don't know what their time frame is of how frequently they have to update, but I know there's been several that have come across my desk where I look at what our growth numbers are and what their assumptions are to make sure that they're using the same assumptions as well.
Right.
So I know they're doing separate efforts, but we do coordinate with them, and Chad and Kelly can provide a lot more. Okay, thanks, boss. Kelly, I do want to give a shout out. Kelly has been phenomenally supportive in all of this and really helping to bring me up to speed on city operations and has gone above and beyond. So thank you.
So a huge thumbs up from him. So
Yes,
that's
big
good.
fan.
All righty. Are you okay? Okay. Down here? Good? All righty. You need anything from us?
That's
Just
it.
Keep moving
Thank
on.
you.
So thank you so much.
Have a great
Appreciate it.
evening.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Molly. We'll move on to parks. Councilmember Show is out today, but she passed the baton on to Councilmember Troutner.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyce. We have 2 items on the Parks agenda this afternoon. Both require action, and the first is an agreement with Siemens for Kent Commons fire alarm replacement. And I'd like to welcome Nate Harper.
Okay. Good evening, council members. Thanks for having me here. I am Nate Harper. I am the Facilities Capital Projects Manager. I'm here tonight seeking approval to use the cooperative purchasing agreement with the King County Directors Association, also known as KCDA, for the replacement of the fire alarm system at the Kent Commons facility. Siemens Technology Incorporated holds a contract with KCDA and has given us a proposal for this work, totaling in at $353,786.34, which includes Washington State sales tax. By using this master agreement, we believe we are receiving a more favorable proposal than negotiating the terms on our own. Purchases through the master agreement are also exempt from the competitive bidding requirement as stated in King County Code 3.70.110F. This project is from an established budget and is fully funded.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions from my colleagues? All right. With none, I will move to authorize the Parks Department to contract for fire alarm system parts and installation through a cooperative purchasing agreement with Siemens and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the Parks Director and City Attorney.
Second.
The motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Thank you for being here today.
Okay.
All right, and then the next item on the agenda is the King County Veterans Senior and Human Services Levy for 2024 to 2026. Welcome, Cindy.
Thank you. So, good afternoon, Council. I'm Cindy Robinson. I have worked at the Senior Center for 23 years. I've managed it for the last 5. In 2019, King County Senior Activity Center was awarded $403,689 through the King County Veterans, Seniors, and Human Service Levy to support operations from late 2019 to 2023, with specifically $136,000 of that late dedicated to specific capital projects. In 2023, an additional $6,466 was granted specifically for transportation services for seniors in need. King County voters approved a new round of veteran, seniors, and human service funding in August of 2023. While the original funding ended in December of 2023, the center received an additional $154,538 to continue operations for an additional 6 months, while new funding applications were reviewed, processed, and awarded by King County. On May 1st of 2024, the Senior Center was awarded a new VSHS contract in the amount of $827,366, covering the period of July 1st, 2024 through December 31, 2026. You may be noticing there's a difference between the $827,000 and the $1.4 million. I just want to point out that the new contract span is 2.5 years, where the original contract span was 4.25 years. So in a comparison time frame, there's actually an increase of 11% for our operating funding that they've awarded us this time. The Senior Center sustained significant COVID reductions in the amount of 2.75 full-time staffing in early 2020, which led to a notable decrease in services. VHS funding allowed us to provide frontline customer service as we shifted some of our service programming to focus on increased outreach and essential services to the growing senior population, including the many underserved, marginalized, and isolated community members, further enriching our comprehensive programming. Just some examples of some of our specific funding usages. We do have a full-time outreach coordinator to assist individuals seeking assistance in providing them with services. We have full-time front desk staffing to ensure seamless operations and providing assistance to the public. We have part-time staffing supporting specific programs, including our open computer lab. We have access to senior services, which offsets the reduced lunch cost and provides free fitness center passes to those who meet financial criteria. We have a program called Expanding Your Mind. It's designed to promote continued learning on various topics, and it continues to grow in popularity. We provide a multitude of free physical and mental health opportunities, including but not limited to Tai Chi and individual counseling. We've established community partnerships in collaborations with different cultural organizations like the Indian American Community Service and the Afghan Refugee Services to enhance the service offerings and cultural exchange, and we are continuously working to form more of these partnerships. As mentioned, in 2023, we were able to provide senior transportation to medical appointments as well as to the Senior Center to fight that social isolation. We have several big special events that include for outreach, including our wellness fair, our food truck fencing, and our take-home holiday meals for the isolated senior. We have speed friending. It's facilitated. It's kind of like speed dating without that awkwardness, but it's just for anyone to get to know new people and expand their social circle. We've done several capital projects. We've created a senior community resource guide that assists individuals in navigating all the resources available, and our most recent addition, which we are launching this month, is our virtual senior center program. It's through a company called Televita, and we are offering accessible, free virtual programming to seniors at no charge, but this is specifically targeting the isolated senior. Those are just a few of the many things we've been able to do. So I'm asking that you accept the grant funds from King County through the Veteran, Senior, and Human Service Levy, amend the budget, and authorize the expenditures of the grant funds, and authorize the mayor to sign all the necessary documents subject to final terms and conditions acceptable by the Parks Director and City Attorney.
Thank you so much. Exciting news.
Yes.
Any questions? Comments? All right. Love to accept grant money, and this will really benefit our senior community. I move to accept grant funds from King County in the amount of $827,366 through the King County Veterans, Seniors, and Human Services Levy, amend the budget, authorize expenditure of the grant funds, and delegate authority to the mayor to approve and execute an agreement with King County for the use of these grant funds, subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the Parks Director and City Attorney.
Second.
Motion is second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Thank you so much. And I will turn it back over to you, Councilmember Boyce.
Thank you, Councilmember Troutner. We're going to move on to our last item, which is the Public Works, and Councilmember Fincher.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We have Eric Connor coming, but before he comes, I just wanted to thank the Senior Center for the wonderful job you guys do. You know, just like the rest of Parks Department, you barely skipped a beat when it came time for COVID. People who were locked into their homes, seniors especially, were able to get meals because you picked that right up. Some of the other things that you offered online were key to helping fight depression for some of those folks, which is a big problem in our senior community. You guys are inventive with what you do. I know people from other communities who come from their community to our senior center. So I just wanted to say thank you very much. And we have Eric Connor, who's going to talk to us about some funding and projects over on Meet Me on Meeker.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Eric Connor. I'm the construction manager in Kent's Public Works Engineering Department. Our upcoming Meeker Street multimodal project has been awarded to a contractor and will soon be proceeding to the construction phase. The project will extend Meet Me on Meeker improvements through 64th Avenue intersection and Kent Elementary School frontage along the south side of Meeker Street. It will provide curb bulb outs, concrete crosswalks at 64th, a raised mid-block crossing with rapid flashing beacons, illumination, and ADA curb ramps. Funding for these improvements is largely provided by a federal grant. Federal funding comes with stringent contract administration requirements that often result in federal project management review audits. As a result, we find it valuable to contract with consultants specializing in contract administration of construction projects that are using federal funds. Today, I'm seeking the committee's authorization for a consultant services agreement with Akana. Akana is a civil engineering firm that has vast experience in the region providing construction management for local municipalities on federal funded projects. With authorization, Akana will provide construction management, contract administration, field inspections, and quality control. Thank you for the opportunity to share about this project and request approval of Akana's contract. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. Questions, comments? In that case, I move to authorize the mayor to sign a consultant services agreement with Cooper Zeitz and Engineers, Inc., DBA, Akana, subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the Public Works Director and City Attorney.
Second.
Did you have something to add there?
No.
Okay. Questions, comments, discussion? It has been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Fincher. It is now 4:38. We're going to take a break until 5:15. Thank you.
Do we wait or? Okay.
Prep time, Julie.
I know. Oh, mine's working. Oh, my.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Kansas City Council Workshop for Tuesday, September 3, 2024. We have 2 items on our agenda today. First, Parks GIS system. Julie Perez-Condola is here, and I think she's going to introduce Cassidy.
I am.
Right.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Council President and Council members. I'm just doing a quick intro. It's my pleasure to introduce Cassidy Sawyer, who will be presenting our newly developed GIS program. Not recent, but we've been working on it for the Parks Department. Today is Cassidy's first presentation in front of Council, and I told her you were all awesome and it'd be fine. So we're excited to have her share. Really, we've made some significant and very impactful progress in the last few years, and we wanted to be able to bring that to you. And a lot of that is because of Cassidy's leadership and her technical skill set and abilities to do that. Cassidy began her journey with us in 2020 as an intern, and of course we saw immediately her adaptability and communication style. I mean, we're switching from human services to park ops to recreation and so on, as well as her technical ability in her profession. And so in 2022, through allocation funding within the Parks Department, we were able to hire her on into a full-time term limited position, and since then her work has really been pretty transformative for us. So under her expertise, our department has significantly advanced our technical abilities to really enable us to conduct thorough and accurate system analyses, inventories, condition assessments, and more. She'll share a little bit of that. And so Cassidy does collaborate with all of our frontline divisions, providing that support, and she also plays a connection role to the city's GIS program, which she'll explain a little more in her presentation. And so I honestly, as a Parks Director, something I've been wanting for a while. I couldn't be more proud of the efforts that we've made in utilizing GIS and spatial data and inventory systems to manage our public lands infrastructure, and then all of our programs we deliver to the community. We can do a lot of analytics in that way too. And so Cassidy's going to highlight, I wish we could share most of all the things that we do in a comprehensive way, but we've got 30 minutes to pound through, and so we had to be selective in our areas, but if anybody has any interest, we'd happy to share more. So without further ado, I would like to invite Cassidy up. Cassidy.
Okay. Thank you, Julie. And I'll just get into it. Hello, council members and Council President Carr. I'm Cassidy Sawyer, the GIS analyst for the Parks Department, and I'll be going through just that today, GIS information, geographic information systems in parks. Okay, so I'll be touching on the GIS staff throughout the city, our Parks and Open Space Plan, asset management systems, stormwater, and some of our maps and wayfinding signage. And I'll briefly talk about Placer AI and some of the big questions we hope to answer with it. So let's jump into it. I'm sure you've heard of Enterprise GIS, as we had an Enterprise GIS group come and go, so I wanted to explain what that was. Enterprise GIS is a geographic information system that is integrated through an entire organization, and this is what the city has been working towards. Enterprise GIS is not the staff, rather the system we all work in, some of which is our online internal enterprise portal. But let's get into the actual staff. Historically, GIS was only in the Public Works Department, and earlier this year, Public Works hired on 3 new GIS staff and recently hired an intern, and now they are a fully staffed team. Public Works GIS manages all of their own departmental needs and also manages our enterprise portal, which holds all of our data and applications that we use internally and publicly. Not only does GIS live in Public Works, but it's extended to other departments over the years. I've been an intern and a TLT since 2020 for the Parks Department. Dan Blanco is the GIS analyst for ECD. Pavel Belsky works with IT and admin as a TLT, and I know police are looking for their own analysts now. As you can see from the diagram here, we all work within the enterprise system. As you can see from the diagram here, Public Works is at the core of all the GIS staff, and they provide support to each department. We all work within the enterprise system, and we all collaborate regularly on planning and troubleshooting. So the Parks and Open Space Plan of 2022. This plan helps shape our goals of our department for the last 6 years. Parks wanted to have data-driven decision making to be able to back up their why, and this is what started the push for GIS. And this is really the first time we incorporated GIS into our planning process. To be able to make data-driven decisions, we needed to build data layers on all of our properties and assets. We needed to know where all of our properties are and what assets are in each of them. Also, what are their conditions? The answers to these questions aided in solving the question of where do we need to invest. So when I started as an intern, the property layer was my first project. This was a deep dive into our filing cabinets, looking for legal files, looking into King County Parcel Viewer, reviewing our assessor's bills, and asking lots of questions. Not many of the files state which department a piece of property belongs to, so we had a few meetings with Public Works Property Services folks to clear up maintenance and responsibilities. This layer is updated as questions come up and as we acquire more park properties, and this is really the base for our entire system. There was an intern prior to me, Casey Rushing, who started the asset inventory. There are now 24 different asset layers. Each layer has many fields or attributes to be filled out on the condition, the life cycle, when it was installed, an image, and more. This work can be started in the office using aerial imagery, but needs to be completed in the field with an iPad. I've personally went out to collect data from 30 parks, and a lot of work has gone into this, as we can see how many assets are out at Hogan Park. Recreational value is a core calculation to the Parks and Open Space Plan. High level, this considers the age and condition of assets, the recreational opportunities provided, and other attributes from the property layer. All of these, along with the Kent population, also give us a level of service calculation. And now that we had a data-driven calculation for current recreational value, what else did we need to help identify where to invest in our community? With the help of a consultant, we developed some heat mapping layers. Park access was one of the things we looked at. How much of our community currently has direct access to our parks and high-quality amenities? This was a combination of recreational value, walk sheds, and transit service. The dark purple shows areas of low accessibility to parks, while the yellow areas are parks that are very accessible. I'd also like to point out that the green polygons on this map and the next couple are indicating the park properties. We also wanted to look at population, but we know the city is anticipated to grow. The city's zoning map was a way to look at where densification will occur in the coming years. Multifamily residential zones were given the highest scores and shown in the dark maroon red color on the map to indicate where the most people live. And single family zoning is in pink and will have a lower density of people. Our racial and social equity was another important factor, considering race and ethnicity characteristics, socioeconomic characteristics, and health factors. This was an index of itself, taking into account 12 different data sets. Here, the yellow areas show higher vulnerability, but higher potential opportunity for equitable investments. Next, and our most robust index, is the current park need. This draws on existing access, so the recreational value, walk sheds, and transit service, as well as the racial and social equity and the population density. This one is similar to the park access, but here the dark purple means low park need, where the yellow is high park need. And these are the few areas that we identified as high park need for the city that we had gathered through our data collection and analysis. And once this static analysis was completed, we wanted to know how partnerships with the Kent School District would impact park need, but it wasn't something we could do at the time. We just started working with the same consultant to help take this static map to one that is more dynamic. I was still an intern during the last plan, so this was a consultant-built tool. In 2026, we will start updating the Parks and Open Space Plan for 2028. Transitioning from static to dynamic, we have the opportunity to do these types of analyses in-house. Additionally, we don't have to wait 6 years to rerun the analysis. It could be run yearly to see how our projects have impacted park need, or we can preemptively see how investments will bring more recreational opportunities to the public. Asset management. What is asset management? Well, there's the Wikipedia definition, but for us, it's an inventory of all of our in-ground assets we maintain, the life cycle of those assets. It's really great for questions like, when did we install the playground at Lake Meridian? And really, it's a planning tool for the maintenance, repair, and replacement of assets. Here's a list of some of the assets we maintain and track, like our properties and trails, signs, playgrounds, parking lots, and many more. Within our asset management system, we have many asset attributes. Here we see the attributes for one picnic table from Kherson Park. We can see that this is a picnic table located in Kherson Park. MM Site is the manufacturer. It's surface mounted, was new in 2023, and we can see what it looks like. This is just one example of many. Here's a dashboard on a high level that gives us numbers on many of our assets. So as you can see here, we have 19 picnic shelters, almost 30 playgrounds, over 1,000 signs and site furnishings, almost 50 acres of irrigated lawns, and more than 50 miles of trails and park pathways. And diving deeper into those 1,000 site furnishings, here are some of those site furnishings broken down into different types. So we have 382 trash cans that we empty on a regular basis. We have 131 gates, and 46 of those are gates that we open and close daily for the public. We also have benches, picnic tables, and more. Another thing I was asked when I first started as an intern was to grab information like, how many tennis courts do we have? How many playgrounds? How many parks? It took a long time to verify this information without the data, and it is something we look at every year. I made this park by the numbers dashboard to quickly and easily be able to pull information each year without the hassle of tracking down the data. It took connecting to the right data and querying out the information we wanted to see. So MainTrack, our computerized maintenance management system. Coming back to the city full-time, this was my first big project I was handed. Parks had just implemented RecTrack as their new recreation management software, and we had the opportunity to add in the MainTrack module that would serve as a standalone CMMS for park ops. Going this route, we were able to implement the system quicker and at a fraction of the cost to other systems. From June to December 2022, I was adding in the park locations, categories, task codes, and staff, ensuring we were set up to track the time of our employees. How much time were we spending at a park or event? What were we spending the most time doing? Those were the questions we were trying to get at. And however, a main track is not a spatial database like the asset layers I showed previously. We went live for staff to start utilizing the software on January 1st, 2023. So we've been collecting data for over a year and a half now. As with any new system, I provided training and technical support to over 60 park ops staff. We started running reports and scheduling automated reports to the supervisors and crew leads that coincide with our pay periods. However, our reports weren't putting out what we had put into the system, and this required me to manually pull info into a spreadsheet and load it into GIS to be able to analyze what the data was telling us. Because of this, there was a big lag in the data of about a month or two from the time it was entered to when it could be viewed or analyzed. This wasn't getting us to a point where we could analyze the data and take action if needed. And our solution was to implement the MainTrack API, an application programming interface. So with the help from IT, this allowed us to automatically download the data from MainTrack and have relevant information parsed into a database or table to be used in the ArcGIS tool Insights. Data is now downloaded daily, and if any changes are made, it's updated weekly. This really helps supervisors and crew leads make scheduling changes quickly, as it used to take hours for them to manually pull the data and crunch the numbers. Additionally, this allowed us to join to the property layer and be able to display the data spatially on a map. Here is part of just one Insights page that I've pulled together to look at staff hours, park hours, task hours, and work orders. I threw all the data into this page and then have filters and queries to dig into the details. So the first chart that I have here on the top left looks at hours by location, and we can see that the top 3 locations are Hogan Park, Service Club Ball Fields, and Lake Meridian Park. The chart at the bottom looks at hours by task, and that big orange bar there is garbage services. Year to date, Ops has spent 4,500 hours on garbage services across the city. Really quick, some of the future implementation we're talking about is adding in costs to this analysis as well as benchmarking level of service to see where we're hitting our goals. And stormwater. Well, you may be thinking stormwater isn't parks, but park operations has now taken over stormwater inspections and maintenance on our park properties. Getting this news, we had some main questions that needed to be answered. What are we taking over? How are we going to track inspections and maintenance? And how are we going to report quickly back to ecology? The permit cycle ended on July 31st, and we were able to get reports out and are now starting our new permit cycle. To be able to answer what was our responsibility, I worked with Public Works to get the symbology changed so that park stormwater was purple instead of yellow, so that we could visually see where infrastructure was parks, Public Works, or private. Another thing we asked Public Works for assistance with was getting the catch basin numbers into the data. The image on the right shows old site maps. Each of the catch basins are numbered, and this was important to carry over because of past inspections and maintenance that have been done. Additionally, as we're creating and renovating parks, we're sending the as-built over to Public Works to get new infrastructure incorporated. Now on to tracking inspection and maintenance. Workforce is an ArcGIS application that has a dispatcher in the office creating assignments, which was me, and field workers completing those tasks. I work closely with the Park Ops team to make sure this was as user-friendly as possible while still tracking all the details we needed. I used the existing stormwater layer to assign inspection or maintenance directly to the asset. Our field worker, Andy Martin, then had a list of all the assignments on the Workforce app on his phone so he could easily navigate to and complete them in the field. This tracked all of our work that was done with really minimal setup time. Reporting was the last step in this process. I created a dashboard that utilized the data created from the workforce application. I set up queries to get at questions like how many catch basin inspections were scheduled, how many catch basin inspections have already been completed. There are also two different groups of work, catch basins and water quality or flow control structures like ponds or bioswales. So it was important to be able to differentiate between the two in the data and to provide accurate reports to ecology. Now on to the printed and digital maps I make to support the Parks Department. The Parks and Facilities Guide is a map we give out to the public to know where parks are located and what kinds of experiences are available. This map was last redone in 2017 and in much need of an update. Previously, these maps have been made by Multimedia, but GIS was made for making maps like these. And with my position and all the data we were creating, it seemed like perfect timing. We've been working on getting these new brochures out, but there are a lot of pieces to put together and people to coordinate with. Similarly to the Parks and Facilities Guide, this online application is a map that the public can use to find a park that fits the experience they are looking for. By utilizing the filters on the right, we narrow down the parks that match their requirements. If someone wanted to spend the afternoon at a park with the kids and don't want to rush home, they could toggle on the filters for parks with a playground and a restroom. Only parks with both will appear to let them know where they should go. Clicking on the points on the map gives you information like the park name, the address, available amenities, and the park page URL. The Kent Valley Loop Trails. Another big project that's needed an update. The Kent Valley Loop Trail was created in 2013 and is in the process of being updated. We've added 2 new loops, one that goes up to Tequila and one that is shorter around the driving range. There are 2 parts of this project, updating the Kent Valley Loop Trails map that we see here, and also updating the wayfinding signage to help navigate through the loops out in the field. We do have a consultant helping us with this, but I've been assisting in transferring data, like the loops themselves, and also infrastructure we have in the field, and taking notes on what needs to be replaced, removed, or added to help with navigation for the public. A little more on navigation. We have started creating new wayfinding map signs with Multimedia. It's a way for the public to get a glimpse of what opportunities are available and what a trail may be like before getting started. I've done some rendering work here to give the map a little bit more life with trees and textures and some colors. We've utilized our Kent Parks mood board colors, and we'll continue with this style as we create them for all of our parks. We started with Saltair Vista Park when it was redone this last November. And here is Van Doren's wayfinding sign that was installed in the last couple months. This sign was important as Van Doren's and the Green River Natural Resources area have more or less become one. It's a way to show the public what is now available to them at this site, and I've also started working on one for Morrow Meadows. So with the last couple maps, I've been showing bigger projects, but I also work on a lot of small map requests for presentations just like these. I've added a few of the maps from recent council presentations that you may be familiar with, including the Lake Meridian Playground surfacing replacement and the Earth Core Trails repairs at Mill Creek Canyon. Here are some of the maps that I've made for Uplands Extension and Uplands Playfield and Spray Park grants. Looking at the image on the left, I'm showing zoning, which helps paint a picture of how this area will grow in the future. The image on the right shows that there is a total of 28,062 residents in the few census tracts surrounding the project. Simple maps like these have helped the Parks Planning and Development Division be successful in getting the grants. Okay, Placer AI. Placer AI is a powerful tool we've just started to scratch the surface on. It provides information on visitations to a property like a park or a store. They get this information through anonymous cell phone location data from many different mobile applications. They follow all privacy laws, so there is no personally identifiable data. In fact, they won't display data unless there are at least 50 visitors to a location. They run this data through machine learning and algorithms, or basically a big equation to get out the number of visitors. This data is more than 90% accurate, and they use on-the-ground counters and other information like sales to ground truth the numbers and algorithms. Now that you know what Placer is, how do we use it? Well, the obvious one is how many people are coming to our parks. With this, we're also able to look at how visitation is increased after a park renovation. For example, we have data on West Fenwick Park before and after it was renovated. In 2019, there were almost 60,000 people that came to the park. But in the last 12 months, we've seen almost 170,000 people. That's more than 110,000 more visitors since the park was renovated. We'd also like to compare visitation information with our maintenance hours to be able to pull out any trends. We're also able to see approximately where people are coming from that visit the park. This is again looking at West Fenwick Park before and after the renovation. The red is showing that more people are coming to the park from that area, while the blue means fewer people. We're getting more people from more locations than before, and we're really excited to discover more ways to utilize this information. So a quick note on GIS Day. GIS Day is happening again this year on November 20th here in Council Chambers. It was a really great event last year where each department got to showcase how they have utilized GIS. This is not a public event, rather for city staff to really get them thinking about what GIS can do for them, and I'm really looking forward to being part of that again this year. Okay, so with just one GIS analyst in parks, we've been able to make data-driven decisions in our parks and open space plan, manage our properties and assets, track and analyze maintenance hours and stormwater, and communicate about our parks through maps and apps. And we have so many more opportunities to utilize GIS in the future with our other divisions like recreation and human services. And that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassidy. Thank you. You put in a lot of work into this. So I know our former council member, Dennis Higgins, would be very proud of you. We all are. Thank you for putting in this hard work so we have all this data. And we all love making decisions based on data. So this really helps. So thank you so much. And it's good to see that we're able to track visitors now. I know we were doing something similar with cell phone data previously, right? Sort of ish.
Lodge and tap.
Yeah.
Something, yeah.
Yeah. So, but now I think this will give us more information. So, which is great because that means I know we see people using our parks more often now, but it's good to see it in numbers. So, with that, Councilmember Boyce, followed by Councilmember Fincher.
Thank you, Madam President. Great presentation. Good job for your first one. I'm just curious. I mean, I'm a pretty smart dude, but this here is kind of a little above me, but it's okay. I know it's a good thing. What is the next step? What do you see us taking this to for us? I mean, it's great, the visibility and the data, but what's the next level for GIS you see within the city?
I think it'll be bringing it to the other divisions and kind of tying everything together. I know I talked about our Parks and Open Space Plan, heat mapping layers, taking that from static to dynamic. So I think it'll just be bringing those pieces of data into more of our planning processes.
So are you the focal, and then the other departments they work with you to kind of implement it? That's how the process works? Yeah, other departments have GIS analysts too, right?
Yeah, the other departments do, yes.
You guys work together as a team to... Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Fincher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So with the mapping that you had mentioned, if I am looking for a playground that's accessible, will I be able to tell whether just the trail is accessible versus having equipment that my child might be able to play on, that the swings, the slides, or there would be accessible equipment there also?
I don't know that we have that information on the map right now, but I know that that's something that we're looking at.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much. Good job.
Thank you.
Congratulations on finishing your first presentation.
See, we're not bad people.
All right, next up, we have East Hill North Community Park presentation and our Brian Levenhagen,
All right.
Director.
Thank you, Council President and Council members. It's great to be here tonight. I brought with me Rob Brown, Transportation Engineering Manager, to help me tonight give an update on East Hill North Community Park. And basically what we're looking for is some general direction on kind of next steps based on a funding gap that we have for the improvements on 132nd Avenue. So jump into it. So first, kind of an update. Terry Youngman gave a presentation about the East Hill North Community Park Master Plan on June 6, 2023. At that point, he shared that the master plan for the whole park, and then also within that master plan, we wanted to develop an initial phasing plan for the park. And that initial phasing plan was based on the feedback that we got from the public in the community engagement phase of the project. Right now, the design of the park's at about 50%, but again, there is a funding gap that exists to complete the improvements on 132nd that would be necessary to build with the current first phase of the park. So before I kind of lay out the options moving forward and the potential for reorganizing the first phase of this project, I just wanted to remind everyone of the guiding principles for this project that were developed out of the outreach phase of our community engagement. When we went to the public and talked to them, everyone loved the natural character of the site. They told us to protect and preserve this place. And really just don't screw it up. It's already a great place. You don't need to build a bunch of stuff to make it a better park. People wanted us to expand trail access. Right now, the site is 33 acres, and there's a number of different ecologies on site that people can get access to. So try to get people an opportunity to see those different environments and also enhance them as we develop the park. There's also a number of historical opportunities and cultural uses of the land there that we could incorporate into park design and then educate the public about those things. Also making a safe and welcoming park. A lot of connections. The park is immediately adjacent to Sioux Creek Trail. There's also a number of neighborhoods that we want to try to connect to the park and then connect them to the regional trail, which is really important in any kind of phased approach to the park that we take. People wanted a restroom and shelter so that they can stay longer at the park and let them use the park. And then as part of any kind of park project, you need to look to the future, plan for the future, which means you don't overprogram initially, leave some room for growth so that as the park ages, as the community changes around it, there's opportunities to add elements that will serve the future needs of the community. Another thing that we always try to incorporate in these parks, and we always hear from people, is make them interesting for multiple generations. I mean, generally, if I go to a park and I see a grandparent playing with a grandchild and they're both having fun, that's really ideal. And then recognizing the natural character of the site, it's a really great opportunity to use low-impact design principles and really do that to a higher degree, at a higher level than we've been able to do in other parks, just because it's such a great place that embodies all of those characteristics. So as we're looking at reworking the first phase of the project, and just kind of laying out the two options that we have here tonight, basically what we're looking at is option A is concentrating improvements around pedestrians getting to the park, also passive park uses, things like trail system throughout the 33 acres, and also building those connections to Sioux Creek Trail. There's a number of park amenities that were included in the original first phase of the project that would significantly increase vehicular trips to a future East Hill Park. And so elements like the shelter and the playground that we know would be an attraction and create make the park more of a destination. We would move those out of the first phase of the project and into a future phase. And then we'd shrink the size of the parking lot from about 40 stalls to about 8 stalls. So this option A would allow us to make a significant first step in developing the park, and then reduce future costs of future phases. In order to rework the first phase, we would need to get approval from grant agencies to make sure that they're okay with how we're spending their funds. And really the timing of this workshop is so that we can get direction on whether we should jointly, between Parks and Public Works, submit a budget request to fund the means to get pedestrians to the park, and then also potentially design future vehicular improvements necessary to complete the park. It's always good to have those plans done so that when you go after grants, you're more shovel ready and you have just a better case to make that this project should be funded. So the other option, option B, would be to put the project on hold. Basically, we would need to wait until we find the funding to do the vehicular improvements on 132nd Avenue, which is kind of it's not a timeline that we entirely can predict at this point. We would need to get an extension from grant agencies to spend the funds in the future. Right now, we have about $3 million from the Department of Commerce and $800,000 from King County, so that's about $3.8 million in grant funding that we're hoping to spend on the park in the reworked phase of the park. So, then delaying the first phase of the project also, you deal with continued construction cost escalation. Generally, that's a 3 to 4% annual cost increase. The last few years, we've seen higher construction escalation numbers. But again, it only gets more expensive as we wait to spend money. And then also it just delays the timeline of people getting into the park and being able to use it. So with that, I'll call Rob Brown up to talk a little bit about the 132nd existing conditions and then opportunities for improvement.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Good evening, Council President, Council members. Good to see you. It's been a little while. So tonight I'm going to talk about some of the park access options that we've developed. So just for some orientation, first slide is showing the existing conditions. So on the map you can see 132nd Avenue. So that runs it's a north-south street. North is to the right in this picture, so the street runs left to right. You can also see southeast 214th Way, southeast 216th Street, and southeast 218th Street. And so the Northeast Hill Community Park is outlined in white. This is the section closest to 132nd Avenue Southeast. Some of the challenges we face with this section is the topography. So we've got some lower areas. Maybe, there we go. So some lower areas in here, including this area here where 132nd is above, on a fill section above the roadway. And then we've got another hillside over here where 132nd is actually built into the hillside, where west of here, this is uphill 132nd, and downhill, down here towards the park is downhill from 132nd. So that creates some challenges for us. So this next slide shows what Brian was discussing with option A, what type of pedestrian access improvements we think we would need for the park. One of the things that we had identified early on is the need for enhanced crosswalks. So typically these would be the rectangular rapid flashing beacons there at 214th and then also at 218th. So we think these are beneficial to get people, a large population area on the west side of the park to the east side of the park where the park is. So what we're showing here is, you may remember this from the park master plan, is from 218th there would be a pathway down the hill to the park and then access into the park. And again, this was something that is part of the park plan. It was identified in the park master plan. And then access from 214th Way would be from, again, enhanced crosswalk across the street, some type of boardwalk or elevated walkway through the lower area here, and then sidewalk or trail type access on southeast 216th Street to the park itself. Also, as Brian mentioned, part of this would also be a reduced size parking lot within the park itself, and this would cover basically the people that park on 216th Street now, so about 8 parking stalls in that parking lot, which would then be expanded in the future. I think cost for this would be part of the park redevelopment itself, so part of that option A. And we'll move on to some options for complete access, motorized access. So earlier this year, January this year, the city hired traffic engineering consultants to analyze and design an access to the park. And this is the design they came up with. What you'll see here is widening 132nd to the east, so it's towards the bottom of the map there, and providing a left turn pocket for southbound traffic. So that would allow the traffic to the park to get out of the traffic stream for southbound movement and then make those left turns. One of the things that the traffic engineer, again, widening, we mentioned before that there are some lower areas over here and some upper areas in here. So this would, some environmental impacts with wetlands and buffer areas, so this would be an expensive option. Our traffic consultant also recommended that we do the enhanced crosswalks that we just discussed at 214th and 218th for those pedestrian crossings of 132nd. Part of this analysis, the traffic consultant actually didn't recommend traffic signals or any more enhanced vehicular controls at any of the 3 intersections within the study area. This combination of sidewalks, let me highlight that also. So this would also include, so we talked about the pathway down here as part of the park master plan, but this option would include walkways that run from Sunrise Elementary, the crosswalk there, along the frontage on the east side to 214th. So pedestrians from the neighborhoods to the west side would cross 132nd and then walk on the east side of 132nd down to the park entrance on 216th. Due to the steep slopes and sensitive areas in this option, the cost range to construct this, as our traffic consultant recommended, is in the range of $15 million. So significant investment. And then the second option, this is one, some good smart people here in Public Works in the design section put their heads together with some of our traffic people, and we came up with this option. So this option is actually to construct 2 roundabouts, one at 214th Way and one at 218th Street, and then not allow those left turns at 216th. So you'd have roundabout, and then no turns here. So this would be a little longer traffic routing. So if you were going southbound on 132nd and you wanted to go to the park instead of the previous option to come here and turn, you'd continue down to 218th Street, make a U-turn at the roundabout, come back, and then make a right turn. And then similarly, if you were leaving the park and you wanted to go south on 132nd, you'd go out, take a right turn, go to 214th, make a U-turn, and then go back. So this would provide access to the park without making U-turns. Pedestrian connections would be very similar to the last one. There would be a combination of walkway and sidewalk along the east side of 132nd with access to the park from 216th. So in addition to the access restrictions, some additional benefits to this are at 214th and 218th, this would provide better intersection operations at those 2 intersections, because those side streets would not have to wait to find gaps in traffic, or they'd find much easier gaps in the roundabouts themselves. And with roundabouts at the top and the bottom of the hill, one of the other benefits we could potentially see and likely see is actually some traffic calming in this area. So we know that there's tend to be some higher speeds, especially down the hill. The roundabouts at the top and bottom, people would have to slow down before getting to that section of the roadway. So, and then this one, because we don't have those impacts to the sensitive areas in this area, and then widening where we've got hillsides, even with 2 roundabouts, the cost range for this alternative is in the $8 million range. So just a little bit more than half of what the previous alternative is. So. And those are the alternatives that we've presented tonight. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions about these.
Councilmember Boyce.
Thank you, Madam President. The roundabouts, they usually take up a lot of space up there. So what impact will we be having with the roundabouts up there, both of those? So
when we do single lane roundabouts with these type of traffic volumes and these type of future projections, this area, and this is really big to try and highlight this, but the area across here is about 85 feet. So there is some property impacts, but it's not the large roundabout that we have out here at 4th and Willis. That's designed for trucks to make U-turns and 2 lanes of traffic. So This is a little bit larger than the roundabout we just built over on 108th at 264th, kind of by Target and Home Depot.
Yeah,
A little bit bigger than that, little higher traffic volumes on 132nd.
Is there be property impact for both of those, just that one on 214?
There would be some slight property impacts. Actually, the right-of-way in this area there, so at 214th.
Yeah.
And again, consider this more of an engineer's crayon drawing. It's kind of to scale, but, so there'd be a little bit of property impacts potentially, but in the design, there's also opportunity to shift the roundabout to minimize property impacts, sensitive areas, those type of things.
Okay.
And then 218th, with the Parks Department already owning the property for the park, and the amount of right-of-way there, there's little to no property impacts in that 218th.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Councilmember Larmer, followed by Troutner.
Thank you, Council President. So, Rob, do I have this correct? I guess I'm having a hard time understanding. So the roundabout plan actually costs less than the left turn with the beacons? How is...
So here's the left turn. So one of the big expenses, or the big expense in this, is you've this area, you've got this wetland sensitive area here. And so widening that, adding this additional pavement and all that there's a lot of mitigation there. And then you've got steeper hillsides here, which means you're building retaining walls along this section and along this section for the road widening. So when you start getting into that environmental mitigation and building retaining walls and widening the roadway, that's where big money comes in. And so this is approximately $15 million option.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying that.
Councilmember Troutner.
Thank you, Council President. First of all, thank you to both of you for being here. This is just another one of those examples that shows how our different departments work together to figure out the best solution to being able to have this park available. So giving a thumbs up to this would mean it allocates some money in the mayor's budget to be able to move forward with park improvements, but down the road, it gives us some time and opportunity to also continue to look at pedestrian and vehicle improvements. Is that kind of the...
Yeah, so we would make a budget request in the current budget to pay for the pedestrian access improvements that would basically be necessary as part of a re-envisioned first phase of the project. And so it would, again, we're really just stepping back right now and just saying, how do we move this forward, right? So there's still a lot more work to be done, but that's the idea, is that we have money to pay for the pedestrian access improvements. We'll rework the money that we had for the park to pay for a first phase that completes those connections to those crossings, allows for positive use of the site sooner, builds infrastructure that will allow the second phase to be more cost effective. And then we start trying to find a funding source for the improvements that Rob spoke about. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments? Okay, so my feedback is, I think we put in a lot of work into this. I think we do need to move forward with the project. We just need to figure out which option. Obviously, this is a lot more expensive, but we need to figure out is roundabout the right option, because we do hear concerns from people on 132nd about, well, I guess not in this section, maybe further down is where the congestion starts happening. So, but it would definitely slow down cars going towards the school or coming from the school. So I think it would be helpful, but it's my hand. I'm doing it over here. Noise. Sorry, I touched the microphone. But that's my feedback. So Councilmember Fincher, followed by Troutner, please.
I like the roundabouts because I think they do help the traffic flow, just like over here on 4th. My concern, though, is still the speed between the roundabouts where there's that straightaway. So is there anything in between there to help slow the cars in this plan?
So we haven't progressed the design too far. Again, think of this as an engineer's crayon drawing. It's kind of to scale. It kind of shows the impacts, but there are a lot of details to be worked out in design. One of the things that we've started doing and we like to do is actually narrow the lanes. And so historically, engineers have built traffic lanes at 12 feet wide, and we don't need those. That's like a freeway for trucks. So we've narrowed our lanes to 11 feet or even 10.5-foot lanes to make that roadway feel narrower so people don't want to go so fast. So there's some opportunities there. There's some pavement marking things that we could potentially do. But as an arterial street, we can't do too much. We really can't put speed cushions or things like that on it because we don't want people to slow down at 15 when you've got, 25,000 cars a day driving over it. So, but there's some ideas.
Councilmember Troutner, followed by Councilmember Boyd, please.
Thank you, Council President. So again, going back to this, we're not looking at giving a thumbs up to a roundabout or this other piece. We're doing the pedestrian improvements, but we're giving a thumbs up on allowing you to ask for money in the budget to be able to make these park improvements and these pedestrian.
Right, yeah, that's the next step. And then it's, continuing to work with our consultants to kind of shift from the original phase 1 to a rescoped phase 1 that works with the pedestrian access improvements that we would ask for money for in the budget.
So if somewhere down the road we decided we wanted to add in the roundabout or something, that's another
That's a whole
ask,
whole other layer of outreach and
trying to
conversation.
find the funding for that. Okay, just to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Boyd, please.
Okay, yes. I was wondering about why are we trying to eliminate the left turn at 216? I mean, what's the reasoning for that?
Great question. So and they're trying to be efficient with funding. So by eliminating the left turn with the roundabouts that are shown here in this alternative, that cost savings is in the range of $7 million by building 2 roundabouts and not allowing left turns. If we did the left turn option, which is shown in this, that's $7 million more for left turns to the park because, again, you're building retaining walls, you're impacting sensitive areas. It's much more intensive construction with the roundabout option. All of those things at, in that 216th area where you would be building that left turn, that road stays the way it is now. So there's no improvements. But because we know even with the roundabouts, if we don't put some kind of median in there, people will still stop and turn left. And then there goes your efficiency and some potential risks with people taking chances making left turns.
Okay, and then and they were talking, I heard somebody mention about the speeding between 214th and 218th. I'm thinking that because we have the 2 roundabouts at both ends there, that alone should slow the traffic down, right?
Correct, yeah. The way these roundabouts will be designed with this type of diameter, you would go through that roundabout in the range of 15 to 17 miles an hour. And so then you would have to consciously speed back up, with a speed limit of 35 between there.
Okay,
so we could expect some traffic calming as a result of this.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Larmer, did you still have a comment or question? No. Okay. I think you kind of have your answer. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Thank you.
Wait, we have an.
Sorry. Moving forward, working on the project, or are we holding off on the project so they can ask for funding during budget?
I personally vote that we hold off. There's a lot of parks in recreation along that strip, and I personally would take. I'm not thrilled with the pedestrian. I still think there's a danger in that area, so I want to take this opportunity to say that we hold on it. I don't think there's a huge impact to the community because we have Gary Grant Park and Playground at 212th. We have Sunrise Elementary at 132nd. Right there next to it, we've got Sioux Creek Elementary Park at 218th. We've got Green Tree at 216th. So my personal preference would be for option B.
Any comments on some of Councilmember thoughts?
Happy to. So good concern. Yeah, that is one of our biggest concerns is those pedestrian movements, especially crossing 132nd. So what we would be proposing in just the pedestrian access only alternative would be to do the rapid rectangular flashing beacons. It's a 2-lane crossing. So you'd have flashing lights on both sides of the street that, pedestrian activated, you push the button, the lights flash. And in this area, Pacific Northwest, we have really good compliance with that. So when people push the buttons, our compliance rates are probably in the 90+%.
Even at the crest of a hill that at certain times of year visibility is really low.
But you'll have on both sides, so you've got trees on the east side, and you've got those flashers on both sides of the road. So yes. So yeah, they're right. They're at certain times of the year when you're going up the hill, you've got the sun kind of, coming straight in your face. Yeah.
And sun's in my eyes. Kids are crossing in front of me. That worries me. So.
Right.
Councilmember Troutner.
Thank you, Council President. I will be supporting option A. I think we've made some significant investments in this park. We've also heard from people in our community that this is very important. And by having some money in the budget down the road, that does give us options at looking at improvements to the pedestrian access if we feel like these improvements haven't made a difference. So I will support option A. Thank you.
And Councilmember Troutner, I think you also had conversation with maybe Councilmember Michaud, who is the chair for Parks.
Yes, thank you very much for that. I did speak with her last week, and she also is supporting that same option for similar reasons. Thank you.
Councilmember Boyce?
I give thumbs up too. We can't have too many parks, right? So I'm okay with moving forward.
Councilmember Boyd?
Yeah, so looking at construction costs, pre-construction costs, well, say if we hold off on doing this project, right? The construction cost is going to increase regardless, right?
Yeah.
So whether or not we start or don't start, it's still going up between 3% and 4%, right?
Yeah, I mean, the longer we wait, the cost will go up.
So I guess I'm going to go with option A too. I say we go ahead and start. Yeah.
Councilmember Fincher?
I'm also going to go with A. And the rapid flashing beacons and look at other types of mediation for speed. But I say go with option A also.
Thank you. That gives you your answer. All right.
Thank you very much.
We'll move forward with the option A, and we'll have more conversation to look forward to on this. So thank you. Thank you, both Brian and Rod. And we are adjourned.
Address some of those concerns.
And then how many parcels were left with 880-foot buffer?
It was over half, so we have 1,037 total parcels in the zoning areas. With the biggest buffer, 880 foot, it takes about 38% of the parcels. So it leaves almost 600 parcels.
Okay, do you have a map that shows, like you had before,